So while they're setting up there, I'll go a little bit more into my background in the company I work with. So I've been in the industry now 30 years. I've been doing computer validation for the entirety of that career. It's all I've ever done. I was lucky enough to literally fall into it. It's all I ever really want to do. In part because it affords me the opportunity to experience all the cool toys. Like if there's a cool toy out there, I've probably been involved in its deployment somewhere in some way, shape, or form. So it's very, very rare for me to come across a new thing. I'm also incredibly risk friendly in this space, which makes my position in this particular topic kind of unusual. The company that I work for now, Elevatebio, we are a cell and gene therapy CDMO. I spent the 8 or 10 years prior to that at Sanofi, big batch biotech. Prior to that, I was at Amgen, big batch biotech. Lots and lots and lots and lots of history, lots and lots and lots and lots of data, right? Very, very easily, not easily, but architecturally, some of the earlier presentations talked about the getting data, right? Hive, collect all your data and put it, normalize it and even seek. Like, fantastic. I love that. Absolutely love it. And I think that there are applications for artificial intelligence in that space. I'm not seeing it in my space, in manufacturing. And that's what we'll talk about here. All of what I'm saying here is from my own personal experience in seeing in the last 5+ years that I've been at Elevatebio. There we go. All right, this way I can see what, because I do actually have a couple of little notes in here that I wanted to make sure I touch on. So this was more about Elevatebio. We've been around for a little while. I'm going to stress the CDMO part of it. And one of the things I'm not going to talk about or harp on in this is the actual validation process, which is kind of strange from a CSV guy. Like, you would think that's one of my concerns. Philosophically, it is, but I think there are other challenges that present more roadblocks than just how are you going to validate this thing. I only have a couple of slides. I like to keep these relatively light on slide content. I am open to real-time interaction. If I say something that you vehemently object to, please raise your hand and let me know. I will not be offended. But so, are we going too far too fast? Like, am I a skeptic or a cynic? I will talk about technology, and then I do have philosophical components to this. I could talk about any one of these bullets until the cows came home, but I will keep it brief. So the amount of money that we're spending, and this is not just cell and gene therapy. This is and somewhat hypocritically, right? I obviously use Google or whatever to look up some of these things. I think it's a fantastic tool. I love it in my personal life. I love the fact that if I'm going to go make a restaurant reservation, Google Maps now says, like, users or diners at this restaurant say this, that, and the other thing. Super helpful information. But it doesn't say that the last 10 users thought it was terrible experience or there's been a change in management. So you have to take another step, right? Point being, we're spending a ton of money on this. Our friends across the pond are at least investing in trying to regulate it. Now it's funny, like, as I was putting the sort of finishing touches on this yesterday, I noticed that our administration finally said, like, here's some framework ideas that we want to have, and the part that I don't know if it made me happy or sad, was, suggesting that we take a light touch, but also suggesting to limit the state's powers. I'm not going to go there from a government perspective. Again, I have my own opinions, but we're not going to go there. The part that I really liked about the European approach was they're identifying risk levels, right? And trying to give you what I think is a logical framework. So, skeptic or cynic. There are absolutely use cases. Drug discovery. So we have a manufacturing site in Waltham, Massachusetts. We're building another one in Pittsburgh, and we have a super cool sequencing database, like down in North Carolina. Got a massive database of protein information, and I know that we are partnering with people and doing all kinds of super cool drug discovery stuff. Absolutely love that. I think that is fantastic. The stuff like quality review, who doesn't take advantage of the grammar proposals in Microsoft Word or spell check, right? That's a fantastic tool. The one that I've seen that, I'm kind of like, we happen to use Neat for our validation tool, and with their latest upgrade is going to give us something that tells you if there are blank execution rows or something, right? Like, hey, maybe you shouldn't try to post-approve this thing because it's not complete. Helpful, useful, but like, meh. Like I'm not really sold on it. The actual e-validation in this one, so here's where I'm sort of an oxymoron. I have some partners in my QAV group who are like very excited about the possibility of letting AI just like build protocols and take requirements and like build me test cases and all that. And again, it sounds super cool, and you're probably going to save a little bit of time, but like, my God, we just went through changing our own philosophy to adopt this CSA approach and really try to embrace the idea of critical thinking. Well, I'm just going to stick a requirement spec into some machine and say, give me a test case. Like, well, why did I just go through all that effort? And at the end of the day, what benefit does that provide the end user if, like, here's a thing, just go execute it. Now we're back to I'm writing test cases so that any idiot off the street can execute. And I don't think that's the way that we want to go, right? So the roadblocks that I see in my space are the data. And this was one of the notes. Poor data quality and availability is the leading cause of AI pilot failures. This was from a Benchling study at the end of last year, right? You've got tremendous amounts of data potentially in your MES system, your ERP system, your LIMS system. Most of the widgets that are made for us happen in a space like this with no access. I won't say no. Access to the data is questionable at best, right? Human middleware is the most common middleware we have at Elevatebio. So in the second bullet here, so much of our systems in data are not aligned. I mentioned that we're building a second facility in Pittsburgh, and the vision for that facility is to be even more advanced than the one that we have in Waltham. When I got to Waltham in 2020, they said, we are a digital-first company. We want to be completely automated, right? Like, if there's an acronymed thing, we've got all of them. We have 4 LIMS systems right now. We still have 2 MES systems, right? We've got all the coolest stuff, and we produce more paper than I produced at Sanofi, in a plant that was 5 times the size of our site. So, in theory, it sounds great. It sounds fantastic. But if you can't actually get all this data from all these disparate systems, what good is this AI? The final one here, the perpetual uniqueness. That was a little bit sort of related to the question you had about access to other data for models, right? Like Elevatebio, we have our own version of ChatGPT, ChatEBT. I've not used it. I have no desire to. It's not a thing that makes me get up and get excited to go to work. But I'm certain it is constrained and limited to the information that we provide it, right? When I think about the usability of some sort of look-back statistical modeling thing, some intelligence built onto our applications, we've been around 5.5 years. We've got less than 1,000 total deviations. I just did a look-back query the other day looking for the term periodic review it or turn 43 records. I can look through those myself. I don't need AI to do that, right? If we were to explode and be the world-dominating company that we want to be, it's going to take us years before we have enough data for it to be meaningful for us, right? Here we go. So talking about the co-located events here, there's a lot of information from our MES friends. Interestingly enough, so we happen to use Apprentice as our MES. In January of this year, it was announced that they acquired Ganymede. And Ganymede is one of those companies that does, among other things, they do connectors. They work on one of those challenges, getting the data out of the widget makers that are on the floor. Coincidentally, we had done some work with Ganymede. We had, and I would say, I don't know, middling success. Had a couple things work really well, a couple that didn't work well at all. The unfortunate thing is the couple things that worked really well, not super critical. The one in particular that didn't work very well at all, I don't know, probably the most critical on the manufacturing side, cell processor. So again, like what problem are we trying to solve? And I am very, I'm going to say cynical about the preventative maintenance and things like that. I believe that we've been able to solve that problem without artificial intelligence. I mean, I think historically, the idea that our manufacturers sort of built in the timeline for failure of their equipment tells us. So we've had this information. So a couple minutes left. Here's my philosophical challenges. I have concerns over who's training the models. I do have concerns about how we validate this, but the two biggest ones for me are really about critical thinking. I'm fortunate enough that I have two sets of children now, an older set and a younger set. And my older kids are in college age, and the younger ones are much younger in elementary school. And I've been able to see the change and the shift in the older kids in the way they approach their learnings as opposed to the younger kids. And my concern is that we are doing ourselves a massive disservice with there is a crutch that this provides that is not enabling us to thrive, right? And then the last one really goes back, it talks about energy, and you can debate whether global warming is real or not or whatever, but you can't deny that these data centers take a lot of energy. And I just don't know where all of that where we're going to make up that difference. And in my space, in this space, in the space I'm currently in the cell and gene therapy space, where we're talking, one product, one patient, very small amounts of things, like I'm gonna jump to the end and the last one. Like, I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. And I'm absolutely biased in this because of the company that I work for now and what we're trying to provide. And I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. There you go.